Hi, this is Dave. If you're paying your sales reps straight commission, you are using an obsolete formula. If you're paying your sales reps a straight salary, you're also using an obsolete formula. Let's talk about sales compensation plans today. Now, both of the formulas I just mentioned are vestiges of an earlier and simpler time. You may be like thousands of other companies who are using compensation plans that served them well in the past. However, in the last few years, a number of changes in the economic environment and our internal capabilities have combined to render many of those compensation plans ineffective. Constant change, growing competition, ever-increasing expectations on the part of customers have combined to wreak havoc among much of our business environment. And yet, one of the most significant changes, which has tremendous implications for Salesforce compensation, is the growing sophistication of your computer software. Most companies are at least on generation 4, maybe even 5 computer software programs, and of course, each one gets more sophisticated. And now, almost everyone has the ability to easily measure performance more precisely than ever before. For example, a few years ago, you could probably easily measure sales and gross profit per territory. And one of the reasons why many compensation plans reward sales and gross profits is that when those compensation plans were designed, that was the only thing they could measure. Anything much beyond that would have been very difficult to get at for most companies. Now, however, many companies have the ability to easily measure things like gross profit per line of billing, profitability per customer, profitability per product line, sales costs as a percentage of gross profit per territory. See, all those are pretty easily come to these days, and they all are much more sophisticated measurements than simply sales and gross profits. This increase in information sophistication should be viewed as an opportunity for increases in sales productivity. With this newly acquired ability to measure the results of sales behavior more finely, with that comes the corresponding ability to reward sales behavior more precisely. Let me repeat that because it's really central to many companies these days. The newly acquired ability to measure the results of sales behavior more finely, with that comes the corresponding ability to reward sales behavior more precisely. Now, all of these changes combine to create a climate where smart companies should take a look at their current compensation plan to decide if it really is meeting their needs. Now, here's 4 benefits of doing so. Number 1, there is the potential for increasing productivity, sales productivity, and therefore the bottom line. Now, I realize sales productivity for a lot of people is a new concept, but pressures on margins are not going to go away. It's likely that you'll be averaging a couple points less a few years from now than you do today. If you're going to survive, much less prosper in that kind of an environment, you'll need to become more productive to create more sales with less margin. Until recently, you have probably reacted to the need to become more productive by concentrating on internal costs. So you've reduced your inventory, you've streamlined the warehouse, you've probably put on your 4th or 5th generation computer software. But during all this time that you focused internally, you probably have kept hands off the sales force. It is in all likelihood costing you the same percentage of gross profit today as it did a few years ago. So in other words, other aspects of your business have probably become more productive. The sales force probably not. And yet Salesforce is probably the largest single cost to your company. Just look at your P&L statement. Isn't Salesforce compensation the largest single line item? Now, if your P&L statement doesn't separate out Salesforce compensation, do it manually, just one time. Put all of the variables in Salesforce compensation, total it all up, and see how that number looks compared to the other items on your P&L statement. If you're like most companies, your Salesforce costs range anywhere from 20 to 35% of gross profit. Now, doesn't it make sense to at least investigate the potential of changing the compensation plan to make that issue more productive? Of course it does. A couple of points change in the relative cost of your sales force, and therefore an improvement in its productivity will drop directly to your bottom line. So that's number one, sales productivity. Number two, corporate strategy. As business becomes more complex and more competitive, the smarter companies are working harder at creating effective strategies. The days of go out and sell a lot as the direction for the salespeople, that's the strategic intent of the company, those days are over. Most sales compensation plans work against effective corporate strategy because they encourage the salespeople to do what is easiest, and that is sell the easiest item to sell to the people who most like them. That's the easiest thing to do. And most compensation plans encourage the easiest thing rather than what is in the best interest of the company. It's often a classic case of the salespeople doing what the compensation plan rewards them for, and that is typically the easiest sales, not for what is in the strategic plan. In other words, the salespeople will do what's in their best interest, not necessarily the company's best interest. Every sales compensation plan encourages and discourages certain behavior. For example, a straight commission plan encourages the quickest and easiest sales, but it discourages strategic behavior that has a longer-term payoff, like acquiring new customers or emphasizing certain strategic product lines. Straight salary, on the other hand, encourages loyalty, steadiness, and attention to service. However, straight salary discourages individual initiative. It has the impact of lowering the total overall performance. So if you want to manage your company strategically, you'll need to ask yourself if your compensation plan directly supports your corporate strategy. If it does not, then it's time to review it and potentially revise it. That's number two. Number three, here's one very few people think of. A well-done sales compensation plan frees sales managers to become more effective. Yeah, your compensation plan has an impact on the sales managers. Even if you don't impact the way you pay them, the way you pay the salespeople impacts sales management. Different Salesforce compensation plans require different types and amounts of attention from sales management. You need to make sure that your plan is using your sales management in its most effective way. For example, commissioned reps not only require less management than salaried reps, they require a different kind of management. If your compensation plan is primarily straight commission, you and your sales manager must be able to adopt a participative, influencing type of management. If your plan is heavily weighted in favor of salary, your sales management will spend considerably more time reading call reports, reading expense reports, managing political maneuvering on the part of your reps. When your salespeople know that their salary or bonus is dependent on management's judgment, they'll spend a significant portion of their time politically maneuvering for a more favorable evaluation. The typical manager may be able to handle 6 to 8 reps who are salaried, and twice that many if they're commissioned. So one of the variables going into your compensation program has to do with your use of sales management, whether that's you or someone else. Since sales management is often one of the highest paid positions in your company, it's a worthwhile exercise to ask yourself if you're making effective use of that resource. Your sales compensation plan can do more to free your sales management up to be more effective than any other decision that you make. And here's the fourth reason, because a well-done sales compensation plan attracts and retains the right kind of salespeople. One of the most powerful tools that you have to attract and retain the right kind of salespeople is your compensation program. Potential salespeople will measure themselves against the compensation formula and make a decision as to whether or not they can perform adequately underneath it. And those who don't think they can do it will take themselves out of consideration. They therefore make your selection process easier by self-selecting themselves out. And those who see themselves performing under your compensation plan will stay in the interview process. I've found over time that salespeople gravitate to the compensation situation in which they feel most comfortable. For example, you will rarely have a security-minded salesperson last forever in a straight commissioned position. And you won't see an aggressive, money-motivated closer stick around for years in a salaried situation. Your plan then becomes a tool to retain the kind of salespeople you want. So there's four good reasons to check out and revise, or at least review, your current compensation plan. Let me review them. Number one, it holds the potential for increased sales productivity. I realize that's a new concept for a lot of people, but sales productivity means that your salespeople are doing more for the money they make. That's number one. Number two, it's a way to implement corporate strategy. Your compensation plan should reward corporate strategy, not go against it. Number three, it's a way to free sales managers to become more effective. And number four, a great compensation plan attracts and retains the right kind of salespeople. So now is the time to check out your sales compensation plan. As you can guess, sales compensation plan is an area of expertise for us. On my website, davekale.com, there is a whole page of resources for folks who are interested in revising their sales compensation plan. So go to www.davekale.com and poke around there. You'll find the page for sales compensation plan. It's all free. Okay? The other thing I want to mention before I close is that sales compensation is one of the topics that we solicit input into for the XI community. So the XI community is a place where we bring together sales leaders to inspire and educate them to seek for excellence and influence in their jobs. And we have a whole group just for sales leaders. So if you want a place where you can just kind of sort of rub shoulders figuratively with other sales leaders and talk about and dig into the issues that are common for sales leadership, the XI community, I'll put a link in the show notes. Okay, that is it. We're done. Bye-bye.